Welcome to the Govcon Giants podcast, federal contracting for people on the outside looking in. If you are here to learn how to win a piece of the pie without getting your face smashed in, then you've tuned in to the right place. Now, the giant that not only walks the walk, but talks the talk, your host, Eric Coffey.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode. We are going to switch it up this particular week, given the recent events that's been happening lately, impacting all of us globally, both the markets and also economically. We are in a new era, right? Something that we've never seen before, a global pandemic that's impacting everyone across the world. It's changing all of our lives, how we do business, and now we all understand what is the term social distancing, right? I was actually in a gas station today. I stopped in and the checkout counter had stripes on the floor with tape for where you were supposed to stand to give the person either behind you or in front of you enough space, adequate space for social distancing. It's interesting new phenomena that we are all getting acclimated to and having to adjust. On top of that, certain cities, states, and nations are in full-blown quarantine. They have actually sent all the kids home from school. They're encouraging people to stay in their homes and not go out so that we can try and get ahead of this global pandemic. So today made sense for me to talk about what's going on out there. I don't want to, in this episode, spend a lot of time focusing on the news side, but more on the aspects of what I'm seeing in terms of contracting and business world. So that's what the conversation is going to be like today. I don't have a guest particularly to interview. I will just be having a conversation to you guys with myself about what I'm seeing that's happening, some of the things that I'm getting back from fellow students out there, what they're doing, things that are working, and where is the opportunity for people like ourselves. So stay tuned. That's what we're going to talk about right now. So where are you at, Eric, with this whole pandemic, epidemic, global crisis? What are you doing? What are you up to? Lately, what I found is about a few weeks ago when the news broke out and it started impacting the United States, and they sent everyone home for about 2 weeks, right? So we all remember where we were all sent home for 2 weeks. During that period of time, they started surfacing. One of my fellow Govcon Giant students sent out a request for some PPE supplies. Again, me being the teacher and trying to help facilitate that, I put it on my social media saying, hey, we have some students that are sourcing supplies. And what that led to was an opportunity for a lot of my students to interact and also in communicating with the respective agencies, states, governments that they were already doing business with, receiving very similar requests. After about 2, 3, 4 days of just basically sharing information, fielding phone calls, not wanting to waste people's times, I started to get more and more involved in this and decided maybe this may be something worth looking at for myself and the potential opportunity. So what I did was assemble a team together of some of my highly talented peers, students, people that I've actually worked with in the past, and said, listen, how about we be intentional about our efforts and really try and go after this marketplace? And so what we did was we literally just looked at what was going down the pipeline in terms of analysis of the news and saying, okay, let's take a look at where the impact is going to be the greatest and where the virus is attacking, and people are going to need to be able to source supplies, ventilators, thermometers, XYZ goods. And so we started attacking those states first. And that was really an all-out effort to identify people who could potentially issue purchase order requests to buy supplies and goods. And that was the beginning of a now 2-week later process. We've secured multiple POs from multiple states, and we are in the process of fulfilling close to $20 million in orders. So it's been a huge turn of events for my team and for all the efforts that we put out there. And we see this as an opportunity to exceed 9 figures. So the opportunity is out there for all of you guys who are wanting to be a part of it, who are wanting to participate in it. And I just want to encourage everyone, now is not the time to relax. Now is the time to push, to push, to push. I'm sure everyone is very familiar with the new $2 trillion package, but I saw the opportunity back when it was an $8.3 billion package. So again, at $8.3 billion meant to prop up the states, the government gave the Department of Health and Human Services $2 billion to help buy the necessary supplies and equipment that was needed just to help replenish the national stockpile. And immediately, for me, I started seeing opportunity. And at the end of the day, what happened was we decided that, okay, we wanted to participate in this particular process. We wanted to participate in this marketplace. Now, let's go back 3 years ago when I first came onto YouTube. 3 years ago when I first came onto YouTube, the reason why I was telling people that federal government contracting was important is because why? When everything else is crashing and burning, when the markets stop, when the economy stops, the only people that are spending money is the federal government. And not is it that the only people spending money is the federal government, they are outspending everyone by leaps and bounds. So the federal government, to offset the market losses, to offset the loss of economic stimulation, to create some sort of stimulation in the economy, they spend even more money. And one of the things that I was trying to get people to see is make sure that you position yourself for that. And so for the last 3 years, what I've been doing is essentially building up an army of students, trainees, coaches, mentees that understand this process, understand the marketplace, and could capitalize on an opportunity if one came about. And so what we see is those persons who prepared themselves, who studied the materials, who learned the actual techniques to go after these opportunities were the ones that are best positioned to capitalize on this particular marketplace. And what you also see, and what I find to be interesting, is that how quickly some of these large companies, large institutions are taking a turn for the worse after only a month of being without income or revenue. So imagine that if you're in your own particular household, that without an income coming in for just 30 days, that you would essentially have to file bankruptcy. And that's what we're seeing with a lot of these restaurants and companies like Neiman Marcus and Cheesecake Factory. And again, some of the airlines, some of the oil companies. How is it possible that some of the largest companies in the world at one time are now getting ready to close their doors just because of a few weeks of no customers coming in and spending money? So again, let's go back to my story where I first started out. 2007, 2008, the real estate market crashed. And again, it sent shockwaves through the economy. And we know that looking at history, every 10 to 12 years, this is what's happening. But I think that 12 years seems like a long enough time for people to forget, right? So 12 years is about another decade or so that we change generations, and people seem to forget that this is always a possibility. And what I was telling people is that's when I got involved in the federal marketplace, and that's when I realized that some of the people who I knew personally and professionally were on suicide watch, and myself, we were enjoying very, very strong growth earnings, revenue earnings, sales. We were experiencing, tremendous growth in our businesses not because we were smarter, but because we were in a different marketplace. So that was 2007, 2008, and it took us all the way through about 2012, 13 before really the economy got kickstarted again. So now fast forward, again, 5 years later from that, 2017, I'm on YouTube teaching the same lessons that I had just learned a decade before that. Today, 3 years later, 2020, we're almost back at the same situation. The housing market hasn't quite crashed yet, but again, how much longer with 3 million people filing unemployment, how much longer can we sustain? How much longer can people continue to pay their mortgages without going into foreclosure? How much actual government intervention is it going to require before people can't pay their taxes, before people can't pay their property taxes, before people can't pay their insurance? So these are some of the things that we want to put on the table. And part of the way that I was able to secure myself, secure my family's future, was I started doing federal contracting. Now, again, federal contracting in this particular scenario, I understand that some of the construction projects have closed down in certain states like New York. Makes sense. But for the most part, all of my projects are continuing as normal, even with the contracting officers working from home or working remotely. We're still business as usual. I'm still being asked to fulfill requests, to respond to negotiations, to keep on track with the terms of our agreements. So again, I see things steadily moving ahead. And also, some of the agencies that I've reached out to in the past who did not respond to me are now wanting to work with me because we do a specialty type of cleaning. So again, all of this didn't happen by luck or by accident. It was all my well-designed, intentional efforts that I put out to just focus on one particular market, one particular industry. Now, does that make me smart? No, it doesn't make me smart. I learned my lessons from the experiences of my past. And so again, I think that for those persons who are listening in today's episode, what can you be doing right now? A couple things that I think that you should be doing is spending your time learning and understanding the marketplace. Some people are trying to jump in head first and say, look, I know the government's spending, I got to figure this thing out. But I want to caution you to take some time back to actually learn the marketplace, to understand the environment, and to get prepared, get ready. Because even if or when this comes to a conclusion and we no longer face with this target that we can't see, hear, or feel, even beyond this, it would be wise of all persons listening to take heed to the lessons of the past. And I would say, again, I didn't necessarily capitalize heavily because I was a consultant working for a company. So during the 2008 marketplace, I was a consultant. So I was receiving essentially commissions for the work that I did. So I didn't actually come out of it a multi-millionaire like some of my friends did. However, in this particular instance, that is not even a question of what's going to happen when this whole thing is over with. It's the matter of how much do we get out of it. So the idea is for you to not be so hasty and say, okay, I've got to jump in and I've got to participate in this action. I've got to do these things right now. I think it would be wise for you to say, okay, I understand and I'm seeing it. I'm immersing myself in it. And I do realize that this is what's going to happen. The government is going to spend during crisis periods always. The federal government, state government, they're going to do things to help jumpstart the economy. It makes sense for me to now realize that and say, okay, I want to be a part of that the next time it comes around. To me, that's the wise thing to do. And that's what I would do as someone who was just getting started. I would not particularly say, okay, let's go in right now and try to go jump in head first, because if you don't understand the marketplace, you don't understand proposals, you don't understand the negotiation, you're going to still have an uphill battle. Now, I want to add a caveat to that statement. If you are a service that is highly sought after, then yes, absolutely 100%. You should be going after this marketplace, right? So for example, if you have a cleaning business, it doesn't make sense for you to sit back and wait for the next cycle to jump into the marketplace. That's just an obvious, right? If you have a cleaning business, if your business supplies PPE, then yeah, absolutely. I would be jumping in head first, trying to figure out ways in which I can capitalize. But what I would do to be smart about it is I would partner with other people who were experienced in that particular route. Some other areas, if you provided telehealth services, then 100% definitely this is your marketplace. That makes sense. Telemedicine, same thing. So yeah, again, if you provide any type of service, like for example, Zoom. So we know that everyone's now using Zoom. Zoom is experienced tremendous growth. Those are the types of industries that, again, if you are already doing those things, then it might make sense for you to take advantage of this marketplace. But again, if you're someone that is coming along and saying, hey, I want to start a construction business, it might be best if you just sat this one out until this blew over and the craziness kind of died down, learned it, understood it, did your research, so then when we start doing those activities again, buying those types of services, now you're in a position to be able to capitalize. So that's number one thing that you could do. Number two is work with other people. One of the things that I find is interesting is people don't want to volunteer anymore. A lot of people come to me and ask for mentorship, but you can get mentorship from anyone. You don't have to get mentorship from me. There are other companies, contractors out there that are working. Why not allow them to be your mentor? Why not get, like we used to call on-the-job training, right? By being a part of, being in the game, working with other companies. That to me is what people could be doing rather than taking their downtime to do TikTok challenges, binge watch Netflix, or get super bulky working out every day. I think that it would be in everyone's best interest if not, okay, let me take that back. I believe that it would be in the best interest of those parties who are interested in participating in this marketplace to seek out a mentor. Seek out someone who you can learn from. Not necessarily a mentor in terms of a person, but even a company who are doing the things that you want to do. Now is a great time because, again, the government is buying so much stuff. And like right now, someone called me with an opportunity that the Veterans Administration is putting out for one of their regions. And I think I don't remember the region. I don't know if it's region 16 or 16 regions. But either way, I know that the project encompasses 1,500 facilities that they want clean 24/7. 1,500 facilities. There's no one company out here who has the ability to be able to do that. So again, those opportunities exist out here. And by you having the free time from your job, or if let's say you're a teacher, or if you are in a position where your job is, like say you worked at a restaurant or something and your job is now closed down, I would rather see you go out and work with one of the companies who are already doing government contracts. Work with them, learn the process, add value, understand how it works from end to end, work multiple positions, different positions in the office, out the office, in the field, as a manager, as a supervisor, okay, learn the business. I think this is an incredible time, an incredible opportunity for you to really learn the business. And this is one of the things that if I was being quarantined, if I had to stay home orders, this is one of the things that I would be doing is learning the business. We all need help. I have never met a small business that doesn't need help. I would be willing to bet that if you reached out to a small business who was doing contracts and you asked them if they needed help, I would bet you 10 to 1 they would say yes. Now, the area where they need the help, I can't really tell you, but they all need help. We are all experiencing tremendous growth. If you're not registered to do business with the government, it doesn't matter who you are. You can't sell to them. So that weeds out a lot of people. Now, how hard is that? Not very hard. But for those people who don't understand the process, or who are not familiar with the process, or who are not even interested in doing the process, then yes, it's a difficult task. It's an uphill battle. But for those of us who are in this game and who have been working at it, who've been, putting our time, our energy, learning, studying, submitting proposals, reviewing proposals, reading requirements, bidding jobs. I mean, the ones that are actually playing the game, then some of those preliminary steps are pretty basic to us and pretty easy. So that's the second thing that I would be doing during my downtime is finding a company that I could work with to learn from. Finding someone that you want to partner with. What's the difference? What's the distinction? The distinction for me would be someone that I'm willing to look up to, that I trust, someone that does good business, someone that I admire, someone that maybe has complementary skills with me. Okay, those things, and I'll share with you a recent story that someone said to me. Those things don't come easily. Someone gave me a person I was talking to recently. He Brian is his name, and Brian said to me that he was telling me a story about a guy who they played golf with, and the guy was a big time executive. But when they played golf, the guy cheated at golf. And, again, it wasn't for a tournament, it wasn't for money, anything like that, but the guy would say he had 3 when he hit 4, or moved the ball and things like that. And essentially, the company who he was working for fired him because of what happened on the golf game. And he said, well, why did the guy get fired? Well, he got fired because he wasn't an ethical person. And that goes back to number 3. So number 3 is finding a partner that you want to work with, because sometimes you will work for 4 companies and you may find that the owner has deceptive practices, or that they do things that you don't necessarily agree with. So he may be a good person to learn from. And I say he, she, whatever the case may be. That person, that company may be a good company to learn from in terms of the government aspecting business, the government contracting business aspect side of the business. However, they may not be a person that you want to partner with in the future. So again, I have people in my own circle that, yeah, they're great people to learn contracting from, but not necessarily the fairest partners, the ones that are going to treat you equitably, or the ones that are going to help you with your business development or your growth and development, I would say. But that partner that you are identifying is someone that you may run across very haphazardly, arbitrarily, randomly, and we don't know, right? While we're out in our various circles, you may run across that person, and obviously now you're going to be out in a particular type of event, but I anticipate in the very near future that the government will be doing more online events. And so again, if you're in one of these online events and you can make a connection with some people, then those will be set up for future relationships. I can tell you the story of some people in my group that have been very successful at partnering with people that they've met at events to go on and win contracts together. So I've seen that happen with some of my students. I've also heard of that with some of my podcast guests. And I think that that's a great opportunity that can be afforded to any one of us out there. So those are some of the 3 tips that I think that people could be doing during their times of quarantine and or isolation. So those are the activities that I believe that I would be focusing on. In an upcoming episode, we're going to talk more about this $1 trillion spending package and where do I see there's a place for you, me, and other small businesses out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. This episode was really different for me, non-traditional, but again, I felt that it was needed given the status of where we're at, the state of the United States of America, the rest of the world. And so I believe that this would serve you better than featuring another SBA award winner guest on my show. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you do have any feedback for me, please let me know. I do try to share everything with you guys, try to be transparent about what I'm working on, what is happening in and around my life and business as well. So again, I hope that you appreciate the effort that I tried to do, what I try to give you, because again, it comes from the heart. So with all sincerity, I do the best that I can with what I have, where I'm at, and I would encourage you to do the same. Stay healthy. May God bless you and your families out there. Stay inside, please, just as a last warning. Okay? Love you guys. Bye.